We'll talk a bit about live gigs. You've done more than enough all
Yeah.
around the world. Obviously, do you want to talk about where it's taken you?
It's taken me everywhere around the world. All three of us all around the world. You know, it was really good fun. I mean, blimey, we literally weren't at home for. You know, we would leave quite often on a Friday, get back on a Sunday or a Monday. If we weren't on tour, if we was on tour in America, Canada, even Germany. I remember being on tour of Germany for 2 weeks, and oh my God, 2 weeks, and that was in the sort of mid-ish 90s, when a lot of Germany was still sort of coming out of being like communist. So being a vegetarian in Germany on a 2-week tour in '96, yeah, that was pretty harsh, that was. But good memories. I still got good memories of those tours, and there was other tours, you know, across Europe. I remember crossing. This is before it was an easy crossing across Europe, and the amount of times being, especially Switzerland, was always a bugger, because, like, you know, we've been strip searched a number of times on, like, you know, when we're touring in a car or a bus or whatever around Europe, back in the older days. But yeah, it's taken me all over the world. But one place I always purposely tried to get the gigs from the other guys, for a number of reasons, and I also went out a lot under my own steam for other reasons, but was Eastern Europe and Russia. That's kind of where my heart's at. That's kind of, I feel like I'm part of those cultures anyway. It's something I connect very nicely. I read a lot about the history of Russia and Eastern Europe, and I find it quite fascinating, and the music out there is, I mean, the old music, the 70s, 80s stuff they were putting out was amazing. I mean, you know, I've got so much over there of that kind of stuff, and I first went in '97 collecting it when literally you could buy a record for 2p. It was mental. I mean, it was mental back then. You could just get records for so cheap, and these records are worth money now, and I've got like multiple copies of these things, and so from there I always wanted to make sure I did the gigs, because I love the countries, I love the people and the architecture and the history, but I also love their music to collect, to sample, and to, you know, so there must be many a Russian, Eastern European sample in an Aquasky tune that people would never know come from those countries.
Wicked. So have you got a in your head like a best gig that you played, like, or your top sort of 3 countries, or who's having?
No, I can't think of a best gig. Blimey, there's some mental gigs. Some stuff I wouldn't repeat on camera, but there's no. One that I always remember is Transylvania. First time I went there, and I met this promoter from Budapest called Lex, and his girlfriend and his mate, who I can't remember his name now, which is really annoying. But I then was taken by someone who used to be a guard at Ceausescu's palace, and he was given the orders to shoot when the uprising started, and they all turned their guns, put them down, wouldn't shoot the people, and then bat the people, and then they went and like took the palace. And I was with the guy who was driving me for 7 or 8 hours from Budapest to Timisoara in Transylvania. Was really funny bloke, and the stories he told me about just another world, you know. And we'd stop off somewhere, it's a mad place, and he'd go in and just buy like massive sacks of dog food and things like that on this journey, and just come in with a load of dog food. And then he'll talk me about the time that about Ceausescu and the uprising in Romania, and then he would talk about the time that he'd be shagging some prozzies and get like some sort of disease and have to piss on his, you know, on himself and stuff. And it was the weirdest journey. And then we got to this gig, and then I literally had no sleep. I met this guy, he ended up working at the Sound Library in New York, but he brought me some records with some drum breaks and stuff, I remember hanging out with him in the hotel afterwards, and this must have been about 5 in the morning, and then I had another 8-hour journey in a couple of hours, and we went through all of these records. And in the gig there were soldiers with guns in the gig as well, and just remember the town. I think I've been back once since as well, but yeah, that was quite fun.
Right, you've been in the game for 21 years now. What would you say was your best era out of that? What's your best year for?
I did like the 93-94 era before we started Aquasky. That was quite a fun era when everyone was connected. There was, you know, you'd know, like, well, blimey, it was mental back then. Everyone knew each other. Drum and bass was kind of like coming through, and everyone was courting people in drum and bass, and from every sector, R&S to Talking Loud and Giles Peterson, Mo Wax, Clean Up Records, Dorado. And that was always my philosophy in Aquasky, is I wanted us, because I was really into, you know, all three of us were into different styles of music before Aquasky, and making different styles of music, and we didn't want to be pigeonholed in drum and bass and just do drum and bass, which we didn't. We were, you know, everyone knows that about Aquasky back in the 90s. We were, you know, fully influenced by lots of different styles. So that was a fun time, because you just meet lots of different people, and it was a good era. Glory years, as we called them, 95 to about 95, 96. That's kind of when, you know, Aquasky was coming through, and everyone knew of us, and it was quite an exciting time for us. Then I think, actually, I don't know, then yeah, like the late 90s was really fun, because we managed to shake the sort of drum and bass tag from us, and we were trying to find a new thing. So when we found breakbeat, and I think probably, I would say my favourite era, I wouldn't say year, but era.
Maybe that should have been, what was your least favourite?
yeah, I've had too much fun. 2003 to 2006, I would say, was the most fun, around the time of when we relaunched Passenger through SRD, so kind of the What's Down Low remix that we did, onwards to probably, you know, the Team Players era. That was fun. That was when breaks was, you know, everyone was.
Yeah, the UK scene was thriving then, wasn't it?
It was thriving, and you had people from other scenes wanting to make breakbeat tunes, and you know, it was a fun time, and there wasn't any sort of stigma around breaks, which there is now. And why, I have no idea. I don't know. It's funny, because a lot of pop music sounds like breaks, or influenced by breaks, or even made by breakbeat producers from those years that I just talked about. I don't know if I could say on record who they are, but there's a lot of guys making pop music now that we used to make breakbeat with. So, yeah.
You've also had a go at that yourself with Black Noise. Got a number 2 in a.
Yeah, we got number 2 in the charts a few years ago, which was really good at. Well, no, it wasn't really good because it's been 4 years of trying to chase for the money and get, you know, a lot of shady stuff going on. But we made some alright money. We retained the publishing, which is one thing I was always taught when I was young by Bob Jones, who did Black on Black. There's, you know, 2 things he taught me. One was always look after your publishing, because one day that'll be worth something. And for me, as a 20-year-old kid, it meant nothing. I didn't even know what publishing was, but it always stuck with me, and that's why I set up our own. We never signed a publishing deal. We always kept our publishing, apart from when we were moving Shadow.
Do you want to explain for those who don't know what publishing is?
Oh yeah, 2 sides to every bit of music. You got your sync side, which is the publishing, and you got the master side, which is the recording. And so if anybody wants to license your music, they can't just pay for one advance. You've got to be 2 separate deals, because each piece of music has 2 sides to it. You know, I won't bore you all with it now, but publishing is one side of the music, which we retained. Luckily we did, because, you know, it brought us in some good money. We didn't have to deal with any middlemen to chase our money. It came directly to us through our publishing company, which we...
Because most artists would use other publishers, don't they?
Yeah, well, we use Bucks Music, which is the largest sort of indie publishing company in this country. You know, everyone from Bowie up to Ronnie Size, us, you know, loads of people. Can't remember who else. Professor Green and Ed Sheeran and things like that. So anyway, got the money, and then I decided, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to squander it? Am I going to try and keep myself afloat, you know, use that money to keep the vibe alive, or am I going to do something else? And I decided what I'm going to do, I'm going to retrain. And I decided to retrain, use the money a bit more productively, sort of looking towards the future, and that's kind of what I did. That's what Dave's done. You know, there's only so much you can't do music. Well, you can do music. We did music nearly every day for 20 years. So, but after a while, it does get to you, and you know, thankfully I'm still smiling now. But there's periods when I wasn't, and so it was nice to, you know, it's nice now to have something else that's going on in life, and then music to just be an enjoyment and a hobby, rather than the only income I had to support myself and my family, which was always a struggle, especially when you're chasing people for money, which is always, you know, massive bugbear. And there's so many companies were dodgy, so many companies were going under. You know, it just got to the point where you just didn't know, you didn't have the security. You know, because there's 3 of us. It's not like just one producer where you can keep the money. There's 3 of us that had to split the money. So that's, you know, was always an issue. Thankfully, we did really well over the years, and you know, we did do really well. So this was just something I didn't want to get this money and squander it again, which I have done over the years. So I thought I'll just use it productively, and so that was, when was that? That's 4 years ago now. It's called Riverside, Let's Go, and it was used the vocals of a tune we did as Black Noise and Southern Fried with Wizard Sleeve, Lex One, Mike Beats.
You still get royalties off of them?
We still get royalties, but we're still having to chase record labels for our royalties as well, which is just a pain. Actually, funny enough, I did an email just now about that, so 4.5 years later. But there you go, it's just one of those ones, really.
That equals better equations. We must do subtraction of your clothes. Me and you got a date tonight. I'm gonna be so straight tonight. These chicks wanna come take me right. So I walked in the club, looking so fresh. Chicks on set, drinks on deck. Niggas on my neck, but they don't care. Got their hands up, put it in the air. Spot this fly chick, ask her name. Goddamn girl, you got ass for days. Take it to my crib, we can catch a train. Ain't got no whip, cause my cash ain't straight.
Walk to the club, forgot my swag. It's okay, I got a chick to bag. Brimmed up low, can't still sag. Haters on the wall, looking all mad. Jack the club, no jacket coat. Skip the bar, I ain't got no flow. Got no ice, got no dough. Riverside, let's go.
Right, so what's plans for the future for Passenger?
Well, the latest release I think came out last week. It was Zombie Robot. I've Got to Have It and Let It Go with a Radio Killers remix. That's just come out, and the next one is, well, I'm looking forward to the next one. The next one is Rico Tubbs, but he'll also be doing it under his Infecto name, and Infecto was the first signing I ever signed to the newly formed Passenger when we kick-started it in 2000. He was my first signing. He was just Riku he's from Tampere in Finland, and he worked under the name of Infecto, and we had trouble as DJs at that point because no one really made tunes like we did in breakbeats, and we really struggled to put sets together. I mean, we got to the point where we were playing drum and bass records on the wrong speed because we had no other way of filling a set. And
Killer Bee sounds good at 33.
Yeah, there's a lot of tunes that sound quite good on 33. There's a Tech Itch tune, and that sounds really good. I can't remember, Parallel something, but all off that EP. But and then suddenly I got I think a CD through the post, because even back then it was quite old school. I think it was a CD through the post from Riku, and it was like, blimey, it's like, you know, there are actually people influenced by what we do and like what we do, and so he started making music, and then we kind of influenced a few others like the Breakfasters and the Autobots, and you know, probably others as well, and they started sending tunes in. That was really cool. But I wanted to go back to Infecto and just try and, you know, hopefully it says a lot for the label, a testament to the label, that we can return back to an artist who we signed nearly 15 years ago to come and do another tune. And the bonus of this as well is he's done 3 tunes, one with the Ragged Twins, but we've also got Mannix doing a remix. So Mark Mack from Four Heroes under his Mannix.
Yeah, because Mannix come back with an album October last year.
He did an album last year, and Mark's a really good friend of, you know, I've got a lot of time for both, well, all the Reinforced guys. It was, I wanted to do it, and I didn't really know what would be the best track to ask Mark to remix, and then when Riku did his EP, and there's a lot of old school in there, and he loves the music like I do, so it just seemed right to have Mannix on this remix. So there's that. Follow that up with the Ragged Twins brand new 12-inch with the track produced by us and a track produced by 601. And then the album will come out after that, and then I think we'll do a series of compilations, and we're getting music returned to us now, so Reinforced catalogue has all come back to us now. Moving Shadow stuff comes back next year. We had, you know, who else? It'll be a while for the Botched stuff, but a lot of the drum and bass.
So this is a 20-year thing, is it?
Yeah, some are 20 years, some are 10 years, some are just like labels that have just disappeared and haven't accounted to us. So, you know, it's just kind of like, so we've got a lot of music to re-release, and a lot of mixes and tracks from back in the day that Dave's sort of sorting out through the DAT boxes now, and we'll put a few tunes out that never saw the light of day back in the day. There's a few bits and bobs yet to get out this year into next year.
Keeping you busy then, so
as always.
Wicked. Anything you want to add? Obviously shout some big ups, or are you scared, or are you going to leave out?
Yeah, who am I going to leave out? I've already remembered I didn't mention Eat Rave earlier, and LSD and Twister.
Of course,
so, I've got to give Eat Rave, Al Storm a shout, I've got to give Twister Dean a shout, I've got to give Roy LSD a shout, original rhythm section, I've got to give Demon and Flinty, Ragged Twins a shout, I've got to give Spider, of course, I've got to give him a shout, good friend as well. Futurism, Speaker Bomb, Zombie Robot, Radio Killers, Daddy Freddy. Who am I forgetting now? I have no idea. 601, of course. Infecto. Everyone that's ever recorded for Passenger, because every single one of the tunes that you guys did will always have a memory and a place in my heart. So yeah, and everyone that's come out and seen us, everyone that supported the label and supported Aquasky. 20 years next year. It's a long time. And a couple of years before that, when I was making hip hop. So yeah, it's been a fun few years.
Hold on. Turn up the bass a little bit, see? Make we hear it kinda lovely, neatly, copacetic.
Love from me, Virgin. No, star. I never tell you to pick up no man. I don't know. I said the man them is all reaching to my yard. We're meeting at my yard. See? So I go on. Well, you're supposed to know that, innit? I told you they're coming to my yard and you come late again. Late, always late. I might be coming to you.
But are you giving me the time for come at you?
That's right. And you're late. This is not the time I give you.
Yes, man. This is the time.
This is the time.
See, you always do it. See, I'm tired right now. See, I'm looking at a new partner. Calm down, come on.
Yo, Bridget, yo. See, there, Ragatrix, Aquasky, see, super bad, you don't know so wicked. Roll this thing about Ragatrix, see, watch this. Come squeeze it. From we stepping at the club, things start happening. High five to promote that. As we stepping out, the girls want talk to the great Ragatrix. So it's been a little time to chit-chatting as we stroll to the club and stop healing. As we dance, I come in the car, hear the howling. Reach the corner, when the crew bubbling. Come we have a little time till we start working. Go mountain at the corner, dirty whining. Different man move close like them one diving. If you come too close, you might get a hiding. Them go march out for me and me brethren. Sure, touch them and then I start raising. Take picture, get acting at the building. Coming like a pop on the way, shop here popping. It's just the lifestyle and the way we live it. Sure. We just a skank out in the party, and all the girls them looking naughty. We got some cuties and some hardies, and everybody nice up in the party. Can we a nice up the station, and everybody a be mention. The girls stand to attention, because we just a nice up a nation.
Oh yeah, let's attack that shit. Take that beat and make it a hit. Make it to the whole world dance it to hit. Rock a twist, pant up, must make you move it. Go! Get energetic, flip on your head and do a backflip. Yeah! Never do this place, damn this beat is a trip. We are deal with the hop and also the hip. Shocking up with the real bit. When we spit and rhythm, I get ripped like RC tune, I get whipped. You still a bust tune, they can't believe it. Like back in the day, them man they still speak. Easy now man, get a grip. You know the rock a twist, take you to the limit.
We just a skank out in the party, and all the girls them looking naughty. We got some cuties and some hardies, and everybody nice up in the party. Can we a nice up the station, and everybody a be mention. The girls stand to attention, because we just a nice up a nation.
It's time for a shake up. That means when the ravers better wake up. Heresy coming in now, cup and take up. Is it gonna break up? Never. Brain too clever. Deal with the storm as a weather. A misfit is too quick. Shaped like a toothpick, but show grit, a true brit, and an all-lit type of person. So get in a circle when I get in the mix. When I'm into the vibe, when I need for a fix. When I'm up to my tricks, when I'm at it again. Run down the van with a look in the pen. Now sleep for the week, favorite weekends. Time to get fucking out to all your friends. Now Pedro is here when I'm hyping it up. Never get tired now, never get stuck. Woo!
We just a skank out in the party, and all the girls them looking naughty. We got some cuties and some hardies, and everybody nice up in the party. Can we a nice up the station, and everybody a be mention. The girls stand to attention, because we just a nice up a nation. Yo, Brenton, yes, you've just witnessed the skills of the Aquasky, Ragatrix, Pedro the Slimer, also M Tequila Killer, alongside the man called Mr. T. See, it's a hot me and bomb up thing. So you don't know who call this hot muff, and you don't know what big boat ya. North, south, east and west, no guy test. Demon rockers are flinty bad man. dumb, you mad, you sick. Head no good. Squeeze out. I don't know, you're roughneck scout, you see? You see? Alright. Gone.